welcome to True Crime NY, and I am Sherilyn Dale, and I am so glad you found me. Today we are talking about the disappearance of Angela Hammond, and this case gave me chills because her last moments were heard by her chilling screams that her fiancé actually heard before she vanished while she was on a payphone talking to him. And despite him being able to catch up to the vehicle by running out of his house immediately and heading to the payphone that she was at, passing this vehicle and hearing her scream out to him, he wasn't able to save Angela. Now, before we get started, if you could make sure you are subscribed and notified to the channel, it would mean so much to me. I have a new video for you every single Wednesday and sometimes even on a Friday. All right, get settled, and while you do, I have a quick message for you. Today's episode is brought to you by CuriosityStream, aka the best place to find documentaries on true crime, science, nature, travel, technology, and so much more. We are talking the deepest collection of the best documentaries around the world. I'm talking deeper than any other streaming service out there. I am not going to lie to you, the sponsorship could not have come at a better time. I have been bedridden this week, and I got to plow through some of the library. It kept me so much comfort. I loved it. I love a documentary. Bonus is CuriosityStream adds new shows every single week, so even if you are in a hardcore binge session, you're never running out of content. To sweeten the deal, it's one of the best deals in streaming services. CuriosityStream actually has a new special documentary that just premiered. It's called CSI on Trial, and it's a original for CuriosityStream. It's a 6-part series, and it puts forensic testing to the test, which I love. It brings to light a lot of flaws that have been used in CSI, and they show those methods by breaking it down in real life cases. So you go through a case with a wrongfully convicted person, their story, what went wrong. I think it's really important to have something like this because it does shine light on things that we can fix. Curiosity is available to watch on all your streaming platforms. On TV, you can watch it through your Roku, Xbox, Smart TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire. You can also watch it on your mobile device, and it is available worldwide. If you want to go and check them out, you can head to curiositystream.com/Sherilyn or scan the QR code. You'll get unlimited access to the world's best documentaries and nonfiction series. Make sure to use my promo code Sherilyn and save yourself an extra 25%, which is amazing because it's already one of the best deals in streaming. So click that link below or go to curiositystream.com/Sherilyn and save 25% right now. Okay, we're gonna hop right into it, but before we do, here is your riddle. What do you throw out when you want to use it, but bring it in when you don't want to use it? All right, so like I said, today we are talking about the disappearance and abduction of 20-year-old Angela Hammond. She was a popular woman living in Clinton, Missouri. Clinton, I don't know if it still is described this way, but in 1991, it was described as a very quiet town and an area that felt safe from crime. Angie, to her loved ones, was born on February 9th, 1971. She was born in Kansas City, Missouri, to her parents, Marcia and Chris, but shortly after she was born, her parents moved to Clinton, where they had a second child. It sounds like this was the chosen area for them specifically to raise a family because it really gave that everybody knows everybody vibe and a great place to raise a family. Angie was well known and said to be very popular and liked in the community. She was a recent graduate of Mount Rose High School. Oh my gosh, I just went to Drop Dead Gorgeous, you guys. Isn't that the name of the beauty pageant? The Mount Rose All-American Girl or something? Oh my god, such a good movie. Sorry. So after graduation, she got a job at a bank, and she was also taking classes at Central Missouri State University. She also recently became engaged to her boyfriend, Rob Schaefer. They were together for about a year, and they had recently announced their engagement after finding out that he and Angie were having a baby. Her life sounded like it was on that trajectory where you're like, okay, great, everything is falling into place. I am on the path that I'm supposed to be. And then on the evening of April 4th, 1991, when Angie was just 4 months pregnant, all of that changed. At around 10 p.m. that evening, Angie dropped off Rob at his mother's house after they had just attended a barbecue at her mother's home, and they planned to meet up later on in the evening. Rob's mother was working an evening shift, and he was there to watch his little brother. The plan was for Angie to go and hang out with her best friend for a little bit and then meet up with Rob and spend the night there instead of going back to the apartment that they shared together alone. After dropping Rob off, Angie did go and hang out with her best friend Kyla for a little bit, and her friend said that they just drove around a bit, hanging out, talking, listening to music. And then around 11:15 p.m., she dropped Kyla off, and then she went to a payphone that was kind of in between where Kyla's house was and where Rob's parents' house was. This was at the intersection of Jefferson and 2nd Street. And it was, I guess, only about 7 blocks from his parents' house. She called him, though, instead of going there to say that she was feeling really tired. Instead of rolling up to his parents' house, letting him know, and then backtracking to their house, she just stopped at the payphone to say, hey, I think I'm just going to go home tonight. I'll see you later. Probably something along the lines of, I'm raising a human. I'm tired. I got to go to bed. I don't want to go over there. And the reason she stopped at the payphone is that they didn't have a landline set up at their apartment yet. So that's what you did back in the day. While talking to Rob, she notices this suspicious man circling the parking lot. He was in a green Ford pickup truck, and eventually he just pulled up beside her. He gets out of his truck and he goes to the payphone that is next to the one that Angie is using to talk to Rob. But then he quickly goes back to his truck, and she's relaying this to Rob because it's feeling very uncomfortable to her. She says that he is pulling out a flashlight, looking like he's looking for something on the ground. And she was concerned enough that she actually started describing him to Rob. She's like, he looks like a filthy Caucasian man. He's got glasses, a raggedy beard, raggedy mustache. He was wearing overalls and driving a late 60s, possibly early 70s two-toned green Ford pickup with a fish mural where these fishes are jumping out of the back on the back window. So pretty recognizable. So Rob just suggests trying to make her feel a little bit better. Maybe he's just buying time because the phone beside him wasn't working and he needs to use that one. So she pops her head out and says, hey, do you need to use the phone? And Rob can hear him say, no, I'll try the other one in a minute. She and Rob return to their conversation, and then Rob says within a few minutes, he hears Angela's piercing scream and chillingly hears a man say, I didn't need to use the phone anyway. Rob drops the phone. Like I said, he's only 7 blocks away, runs to his car, quickly drives towards that payphone, and as he's heading in the direction, he sees this truck that Angie described to him on the phone. It speeds past him, but he hears Angie calling out to him. He threw his car in reverse, which unknowingly did damage to the transmission. He was able to follow this truck for about 2 miles, but when he made this sharp right turn down this dirt road, the transmission just failed and he couldn't drive. He gets out running as fast as he could, but his legs weren't enough to catch up to the truck. The truck drove away and was never seen again. And I cannot imagine that feeling, being that close. First hearing it all happen and then being able to get there in time and your truck fails you. It's like having a dream where you're trying to run away from a situation and your legs just don't work, but this is real life. So Rob flagged down a passing vehicle. This person brought him immediately to the police station. He tells the police everything that happened, gave the same description of the vehicle and the man that Angie had given him through the phone, and they immediately took action. I guess there were about 100 trucks that kind of matched the description. They looked into all of them, but every one of them was ruled out. When things kind of started to settle down in those early hours, days of the investigation, it started to kind of shift towards Rob and his story. He said he understood that was common practice, so he volunteered to have a polygraph. He was given one. It indicated that he was telling the truth. I know that we know it doesn't really officially hold up much in investigation or in court, but it helped alongside with his truck being in the exact situation and condition that he was describing. And then 2 witnesses came forward and also strengthened his account of events because they also saw what they thought was the same truck and a suspicious person in that area at that same time. I believe it was only within a week Rob was cleared. And for the record, Angie's mom, Marcia, had always said that she never suspected him. She also knew that it was very natural to suspect, okay, maybe the boyfriend had something to do with it. Maybe it was the pressure of a relatively young pregnancy and engagement and family being started. But even though Angie and Rob had only been together for about a year, they had known each other so long. And Marcia said, I knew this kid his whole life. I know he would have never done anything like this to my daughter. He loved her. The next lead to Angie's abduction was its possible connection to two other unsolved cases that happened within 100-mile radius of each other. The first happened near Max Creek, Missouri, and this was on January 19th, 1991, so prior to Angie's disappearance. And 42-year-old convenience worker Trudy Darby was also abducted while she was just on the phone with her son, reporting a suspicious man lurking outside the store. During the call, she's asking her son if he can come to the store and help her close up because she felt so uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden, the call just abruptly ended. It only took her son less than 10 minutes to get there, but by the time he got there, Trudy wasn't there, but her car was there, coat, her purse. But they later found out that there was also $220 missing from the till. 2 days later, an individual that heard that Trudy was missing was talking to a neighbor, and this neighbor said that he heard gunshots on that day coming from a nearby river. So after the neighbor tells him this, he decides to go to the river and check it out for himself. While searching, he found blood and blonde hair on the side of the road and immediately contacted the police. When the police arrived, they also found a .38 caliber casing. They went down to the river and they analyzed the flow. They figured if there was a body that was thrown into the river, it probably would be actually pretty close by. It wasn't too aggressive, and they didn't think that it would have gone very far. And they weren't wrong. About 3/4 of a mile away from where the hair and the blood and the bullet casing were found, the body of a nude female was discovered. She was submerged in about 4 feet of water. She was shot 2 times, and it didn't take them long to confirm that this was Trudy. For about 3 years, it went on that the cases were connected. There weren't really any leads in either of them. And then in 1994, there came a lead in just Trudy's case. A man named Carl Blakely went to police saying that his neighbor confessed to the murder of Trudy. Not only did he confess, but he also implicated multiple other people. This neighbor was a 15-year-old boy named Jess Rush. He had been living with his family in Kansas City, Missouri between 92 and 93. So he was taken in and interviewed. At the beginning of the interview, he denies any involvement, but as it progressed, he admitted that he was there and just witnessed what had happened. He told investigators that his half-brother, a man named Marvin Cheaney, and another individual went to the K&D convenience store with the intention to steal money and also to abduct Trudy. So not just to rob her and leave, but there was an abduction in place. He explained that they went into the store, they emptied the register, and they dragged Trudy out of the store and forced her into the trunk of the car. He described that they drove to a nearby barn where they R-worded and assaulted Trudy. He then said that Trudy was shot 1 time, put back into the trunk of the car, and then driven to the river. When they opened up the trunk, though, they realized that Trudy was still alive, and then they shot her again and threw her in the river. Police arrested both Jess and Marvin for Trudy's murder, and even though Jess had implicated other people, nobody has been arrested to this day. It's a story that he has stuck to. He even wrote about it in 2 letters in prison. I read one of the letters and it's really graphic, or just pieces of it, unapologetic and disturbing and disrespectful. There's just one part that I'm going to share. I don't want to share all of it, but just because I have seen on some forums that a family member of Jess's has been vocal about defending him, that he was so young and made mistakes. This language, though, is just very unforgivable to me. And if Trudy was my mother, I would just be so disgusted. Warning, this, I'm going to censor this, but even with you reading between the lines, it's graphic. So he says, all I wanted to do was F the B, then pop her in the head and watch brains come out. Sounds cool, huh? So Jess went to trial, and everyone who he had confided in, since there were multiple people, not only just the neighbor, but some other friends of his, they all testified against him. The last individual who testified was one of his best friends. He said that Jess told him that he and his half-brother had kidnapped a woman from the convenience store, put her in the trunk, drove to a barn. They attempted to R-word her. She fought for her life, so they had to abuse her until she quit fighting. And then they shot her and got rid of her body by putting her in the creek. So disturbing. Jess Rush was found guilty, sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. His brother or half-brother Marvin Cheaney, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus another 15 years for a kidnapping charge, and he ended up taking a plea deal instead of going to trial so that they would take the death penalty off the table. Marvin died of apparently natural causes while incarcerated when he was 56 years old. And Jess served his life sentence and was released in September 2022. And from what I read in some forums that I came across, is now married. And it's a family member of the wife that he's married to who now sometimes goes and, defends his actions. I do believe people can change and be rehabilitated. It's just really unsettling when you read something so vulgar and where that immediate regret isn't there. I feel like in most cases, when somebody is truly remorseful for what they did, that's apparent rather early on. And, you don't go writing graphic, disturbing things about this poor woman whose life you took and whose family you destroyed and brag about it after the fact. I don't know. Anyways, like I said, people can be rehabilitated, so to each their own, but he served his time. He is now released. And yeah. Now the other case that Trudy and Angie's was said to also be linked to that happened just within months involved a 30-year-old named Cheryl Keaney. She was also a convenience store worker. She worked in Nevada, Missouri, and she was about 70 miles from Max Creek, where Trudy was abducted from. She was last seen at her job at the Quality Convenience Store, which was on a highway in Nevada, Missouri called Business 71 Highway, and she was last seen on the evening of February 27th, 1991, so after Trudy. Her usual shift was that she would work until midnight, but this evening it was particularly slow, so she decided to close up the shop a little bit early. Her time card shows that she clocked out at 10 p.m. and then the alarm to the store said that it was set at 10:17. She never arrived home though, and she was never seen from again. Now her white Chevrolet was found in the parking lot, but there was no trace of Cheryl. It was like she just vanished into thin air. The store's janitor said that he left several minutes before Cheryl was locking up. He said that there weren't any other cars in the parking lot besides his and Cheryl's, but there was a male customer in the store that he didn't recognize. But this wasn't something that was suspicious. I guess walking customers were quite common. This was an area where there were several hotels within walking distance to the store, so they would get people who were just passing through town, staying at the hotel that they didn't recognize that weren't regulars. To this day, though, this customer has never come forward, never been identified, and so it's unknown if he had anything to do with her disappearance. It is believed that if the person that was in the store had anything to do with it, they would have waited for Cheryl outside of the store and then attacked her when she didn't expect it because she had set the alarm. So it would have been against policy to close up and set everything up and then open the door and just let somebody in. 2 witnesses came forward and said that they did hear a woman scream around the time that Cheryl would have been locking up, but they didn't go to police until 2 days later after they read about her disappearance in the newspaper. Angie was abducted only a month after her disappearance, and both of them have never been found. Some theories that have swirled about are that a serial killer was involved. One serial killer who has been brought up is Kenneth McDuff. He had a killing spree spanning from 1966 to 1992, and he had committed murders all across the state of Missouri. It's said that he did move back to Kansas City, Missouri at one point before he was apprehended again. But investigators have looked through his path and the records of where he was, and they believe that during Angie's abduction, he was still in Texas. Another well-known serial killer that has been looked at as a possibility is Tommy Sells. And this seems like a little bit more of a possibility simply because he committed murders across the whole country. So he was in various areas of the states during all of these times. The only thing that doesn't make sense about the serial killer theory is that generally they don't want to make themselves stand out a lot. They're going to wait for a clear opportunity where there's no one around, there's not witnesses. In Angela's case, for instance, I mean, she's on the phone with her fiancé. This person can clearly see that she's talking to someone. She's even asking a question, and he's provided his voice by giving an answer. It's not to say that it's not possible, it's just sloppy, especially if you're driving a vehicle with this like big noticeable mural of all these like fish jumping out of the water in this green truck. So because of the uncertainty and all of the theories with virtually no leads or clues anywhere, the case has gone cold all of these years. But in April 2021, on the 30th anniversary of Angie's disappearance, the Clinton Police Department announced that there was a new theory that they were looking into, and I believe that it's one of the most promising in solving her case. They shared with the public that that a confidential informant that was helping in a narcotics operation takedown had received a threatening letter, and the letter implied harm being done to his daughter, who also happened to be named Angie. This letter is like one of those magazine newspaper cutout type letters, and it said hello number, and the number's redacted, but this is the informant number, so they know the number. We know who you are, number redacted. People like you deserve what you get. We know where your foxy daughter is at. She will see us soon. Tell, and then this is also redacted, but it was this informant's wife's name, so tell your wife. She has our deepest sympathy in her further loss. Goodbye. So this letter correctly identified the informant's court-issued number. They also knew his wife's name, and it was dated April 4th, 1991, the day of Angie's abduction. Like I said, this informant's daughter's name was also Angela, and she was living in Clinton at this time. It is also being said that the two Angelas had a eerie resemblance to each other. So their theory is the individuals involved in this narcotics operation that went down targeted the informant's daughter Angela, but mistakenly abducted Angela Hammond. The police have no doubt that somebody would go to these lengths to abduct a daughter for retaliation. I guess this was no small investigation or bust. This was a really big deal that affected, I guess, a pretty big drug business. Affected a lot of people. The latest development that we have right now is they had recently received an anonymous call regarding the letter, and it was from someone that they believe has information about Angela's abduction. I believe that this call came in prior to the letter being released, and they had information about the names that were on the letter, so no one would have known that. The issue here, though, is that this person did not provide any contact information to call them back and provide some answers to some questions that the police have. So police are pleading with this person to call and help them with solving Angie's case. It's so sad, but Angie's mom passed away in May 2021 and never knew what happened to her daughter. But the Clinton police have said that they refuse to give up. They are not letting this case go unsolved, and they are just open to pursuing every possibility that they can to solve it. There is also a reward provided to anyone who gives leads that leads to an arrest. And I think that that is really inspiring to see detectives and investigators who don't want to give up, who are still fighting and still hopeful. And I know, even though it seems like 30 years is a long time, well, it's now over 30 years. And it is a long time, but it kind of sometimes works in closing these cases because people have sat on information for so long. We often hear the phrase, someone out there knows something, and it's so true. There's somebody out there who knows something about this, and this is eating at them, and they want to do the right thing, and it takes time. It takes years to pass sometimes for them to not be scared to come forward. And I really hope that happens. The Clinton Police Department are asking anybody with any information to please come forward. You can contact Detective Damon Parsons. His number is 660-885-2679 and quote the case number 91-0488. I would just love to see this solved. I'd love to see Cheryl's case solved. There is a part of me that feels like you want it to have a connection so that it can be one person and justice can be served all around. However, when this lead about the informant came forward, that just seems so plausible, but it kind of also rules out Cheryl and her being connected. The other theory, I guess, would be that possibly Cheryl and Trudy's could have been connected, and there was only sentences served for Trudy's case. Yeah, it's just so frustrating. I just want to solve them all. All right. That is it for me today, you guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It means the world to me. I love and I appreciate you so much. The answer to today's riddle is, quick refresher, what do you throw out when you want to use it, but take in when you don't want to use it? And the answer is an anchor. And I loved that because I've been watching so much Below Deck that it was really fitting. I got excited about it. I don't know why. I didn't get the riddle, but then I was like, well, duh. You throw it out, you cast it out, and then you bring it back in. And you got to do it speedy or Captain Lee is going to be on you. All right, I'll see you in the next video. I will miss you terribly. Until then, make sure to love each other, love yourself, and I will see you soon. Bye.